Today, I'm going to walk you through every step you need to start a retail e-commerce website using WordPress and the free WooCommerce plugin. Whether you have a physical retail store that you want to bring online, or you're just starting your e-commerce business from scratch, this video has you covered. Here's an example of a branded merch store that I created using only WooCommerce and some other free plugins. I'll walk you through all the backend settings, starting with hosting and your domain name. Then I'll show you how to choose a theme and create a homepage using templates. We'll cover design elements and how to edit the pages on your site. Then of course, we'll install WooCommerce, the free plugin that allows you to sell products on your WordPress site. We'll cover product creation and how to edit the main product pages. Then we'll talk about the cart and checkout pages, as well as the payment process, so customers can purchase products from your store. So by the end of this video, you'll have a fully functioning e-commerce site that you can use to sell your retail products online. But why am I not using Shopify? Wouldn't that be easier? The short answer is that we still recommend building your site with WordPress for a few reasons. First, it's still much cheaper than SaaS solutions like Shopify, plus you have ownership of all your data, and it's scalable, working for businesses of all sizes. And you should know that I'm not a developer, so everything I'm going to show you today is beginner friendly with no custom coding required. So let's back up now to the very beginning and get started. To get a WordPress site online, you can get started with just two things: hosting and a domain name. Think of web hosting as a digital storage space where your website resides. A web host connects your site to the internet, and by entering your domain name, anyone from the entire internet can access your site. Here at Barn2, we use Kinsta for all our web hosting needs, as we found them to be the most reliable and reasonably priced for our business. I specifically reached out to them for this video in order to get you guys a discount. And you're in luck because they are offering 25% off the first 3 months of their monthly WordPress hosting subscriptions for all of our viewers. Or you can get 3 months off any annual WordPress hosting plan. There's no special code or coupon needed. Instead, to get this discount, you'll need to connect with their sales team. This offer extends to all WordPress plan tiers, but you better hurry as it's only valid until the end of 2024. Check the first link in the description to get connected with Kinsta's team and let them know that we sent you. With all that said, you do have other options as well. If you go to woocommerce.com, you could see a list of other hosting options, including WooExpress, Hostinger, SiteGround, and so on. Some hosting providers also offer free domain names as part of their startup packages. This isn't an option with Kinsta, but if you need a custom domain name, you can purchase one from a domain registrar such as Namecheap, Bluehost, or Hover. And the next step is to create your WordPress site from your hosting account. You can then connect your domain to your web hosting service through their online portal in your account. This will vary from service to service, but the steps are pretty much the same. All right, it looks like Kinsta has finished creating my new site. Now I have the option to visit the site on the front end or open the WP admin. So I'm going to click on this option now. And just so you know, to reach this login screen, you can just put in your site's domain and then the /wp-login to get to this login screen. I'll put in my username and password I set up earlier. All right, and welcome to WordPress. With a fresh installation of WordPress, it's a good idea to optimize some of the basic settings, as well as to get familiar with the layout and all of the options that you have available to you. So this is the version 6.5.3. So if you're watching this video in the future, there may be some changes, but overall, things stay pretty much the same as time goes on. Now, if you don't like to see all this clutter on the dashboard, you can actually disable it with the screen options. But some people like to see what's going on. I like to have a nice clean layout. Now, do yourself a favor and go up and check next to your domain and click on this option here and make sure your connection is secure. If your connection is not secure, you should check with your hosting provider to see what steps you need to take to secure it. Kinsta has this enabled by default, so you will already have a secure connection when you create your new site with Kinsta. If you want to see what the site looks like on the front end, you can click on this button here. And we have a sample page to look at, but it's not a store yet. So we need to do some work. And if you want to go back to your dashboard, you can click here and click on dashboard. Now let's check out the general settings down here, settings and general. You can see your site title. I've got it set to My Woo Store, but you can set it to anything else you like. And you can also set your site icon. So if you have nothing in your media library, you'll have to upload files. So I'm going to upload a quick little site icon and meet you back in a second. So this is a small square image, and I will set this as my site icon. Now on the tab, my store will look like this for any users who are visiting it. You can update your WordPress admin URL for security settings, although this is definitely not required at the moment. And you can update your admin email address. You can also allow anyone to register as a member of your site. This is not too relevant and certainly something you can look at later. And you can set up your date format that you prefer, maybe something custom, and the time format. I like to have the week starting on Monday. Some of you Americans may disagree. Now over here in reading, you have a few options, including your latest post as what the homepage displays. But down here, I would check this box while we're editing the site. Discourage search engines from indexing this site and save those changes. This will just mean that no random strangers will find your site until we're done editing it. Then click on permalinks, and I recommend using the post name link option. So when your website is creating new links for posts or pages, it will use this structure where it includes the name of the post instead of some random string of characters or numbers or dates that are not relevant. Save those changes. And now let's take a look at the plugins page to see which plugins are installed and activated. So at the moment we don't have WooCommerce. We'll get to that later. And these plugins are set up by default by Kinsta, but we actually don't need them. So we can actually bulk select them. And we can delete them, apply, and click OK. Now that all of those basic settings are out of the way, we can go ahead and choose a theme for our website. A theme in WordPress sets the overall design of the website. This includes things like color palettes, fonts, and the initial layout of your site. So to get a new theme, click on Appearance and Themes. And you can see we have the 2024 theme active, but I would recommend searching for a new one called Astra. It should be here in the search results, or you can just type in Astra here and find it. So click on Install and Activate. I recommend Astra because it is lightweight and fast and beginner friendly. It's also the most popular theme on WordPress at the moment. When you install Astra, you also have the option to include their starter templates plugin. This is a great way to save ourselves a lot of time rather than designing pages from scratch. So let's get started with the starter templates. We're going to use the classic starter templates, although they do recommend using the AI website builder. But let's just stick with this so we can all follow the same steps. Now up here, you'll have the option to use different page editors. Now to keep things very simple and consistent, rather than using another third-party editor, I'm going to use the default block editor, otherwise known as Gutenberg. And I'm going to choose something from the e-commerce options. Now you have lots of different templates you can choose from. I'm going to be building a clothing store from scratch. So I'm going to begin with a clothing store template. Now we're going to be using WooCommerce, so we will continue. Now we also have the option to update the font pairing. I like Montserrat, so I'm going to use this font as well. We'll skip this step, and I think I will just uncheck this option here and submit and build my website. Now it's going to import pages, menus, posts, and install relevant plugins. This will include a bunch of placeholder media, which we will need to replace with our own images. All right, and that took just 46 seconds to build. Now we can view our website. You can see we have the home page here with a bunch of images and text that's not going to apply to us directly, but it's going to give us a good starting point, and we will come back and replace all of these images later on. Now let's go back to our dashboard. And we have all these lovely notices from the new plugins. And installing that starter theme has also installed WooCommerce. But we'll get back to that in just a second. Go back to your Astra theme. And there's one more plugin that got installed with this template, and it's called Spectra. So Spectra basically just expands the functionality of the block editor, gives you a bunch of different blocks that you can add in and modify while editing your pages on your website. So this is a really nice thing to have, and it's free, so it's even better. Okay, we're finally ready to install and activate the WooCommerce plugin. Keep in mind that while WooCommerce itself is free, it does lack some rather essential features for modern e-commerce stores. Typically, these features are filled in by extra plugins. Now, I don't want to go into the details of every single plugin you should add to your store today, because I already made a video talking about that very subject. So you can check it out up here in the corner, where I recommend 20 different plugin options for you to choose from. But today we'll just stick with the basics. So let's go back to plugins now. Ever since we installed that starter template, we were given all of these different plugins, including Spectra and WooCommerce itself. If you don't have WooCommerce installed yet, then you will need to click on Add New Plugin and search for WooCommerce. Find the main WooCommerce plugin and click on Install and Activate. Now we've already done this, so we'll click on WooCommerce itself here, and we'll be greeted with a setup wizard. Let's click on Set Up My Store. Let's say I am already selling, and I'm not selling online yet, but say I'm selling offline. And let's continue. My Woo store is fine. We're in clothing and accessories, and I'm going to set up store for where we're located. Don't worry about that. It's just because of a VPN. And click on continue. All right, I don't want any of these installed at the moment. We can look at all of this stuff later. And click on continue. Now it's setting up our WooCommerce store. Now that WooCommerce itself is set up, we can create our very first products. There are different types of products, so we'll start with a simple product for now. So here there are 5 steps to getting started, and we're going to look at the next one now, which is adding products. We could import products from a CSV file, but I'm going to show you how to add products from scratch. These are going to be physical products. This is an example of a simple product I made for my current demo site. So you can see I've populated the title, the name of the product. You can see what the permalink is here. Then we have the description, short description, Then in the product data section, you're going to select what type of product it is. For example, it could be a simple product, a variable product, grouped, or external or affiliate product. You can also check these boxes here if it's virtual or downloadable. If this is all a bit confusing, that's okay. I have several videos talking about these different types of products, which will be linked in the description below, or you can just search for Barn2 variable product or Barn2 grouped product to find those videos. So I've set the regular price. If you set up a sale price and don't schedule it, then this item will always be on sale. So just do that carefully. Then you can see here we have options for the inventory, shipping, which products are linked together, attributes, which are relevant for variable products, and the rest is not very relevant. Then over here on the right, starting from the top, we have the update or save options here. You can also copy it as a draft or save it as a draft. You can see the product image. This is the main product image. And then down here, we have the gallery images. If you have additional images beyond just the main one, which I do recommend doing. Then we can see what category this item would be included in. So for example, I would add it as a hat, which would make it part of the accessories. And you can also create product tags, which are not the same as categories. They're different sorts of information that don't necessarily group them together with other similar products, but rather give some unique features that customers can use to find the product. There are also some theme settings here, which I'm going to ignore for now. Then you would click Update once you've added all the details. So let's go through that process step by step now. I'm just going to copy and paste this information. Now let's set the price. I think $32.99. Now let's add the product image. You can see a bunch of demo images which were added by the starter template, but we're going to upload some new files. All right, all my product images have uploaded. Now I can choose whichever one I need for this product. That's going to be my main product image. And I can also select the gallery image. Okay, awesome. Now the starter template did create a bunch of categories for my store, but I'm actually going to create a new one. So I can click on Add New Category. I can give it a name, and I can select whether it's a parent category or whether it's going to sit underneath, nested underneath a different category. For now, I'll set it as a main parent category. All right, and this item is now categorized correctly. And I can also add a tag such as unisex. Finally, I can select Save Draft, or I can immediately publish this product. And let's click on View Product to see what it looks like. All right, this is already looking pretty good. We can see both the images for the product. We can see the price. And we obviously haven't set up shipping yet. We'll get to that later. But yeah, this is looking okay for now. We can certainly make some changes to make things look a little bit better than this. But yeah, overall, we have something that we like. Now let's go back to all products, and we can see which products were imported by the starter template. If you want to change their status, for example, to make them all a draft product so they won't show up in your store once you're ready to go live, you can select them all like this. I'm going to unselect this new one, and we can use bulk actions to edit them. Click on Apply, And now you're going to go over to status and change status to either private or draft. Scroll down and click on update. You also have the option to remove them at any point, but you can see now all of these items are set to draft. You can double check by clicking on published to see which items are still published. All right, awesome. Now under products, you can also find categories and tags if you want to edit, add new, or change any of the existing categories. You can also add images to each of the categories so they can also show up on your website as well. So for example, I can edit here this hats category and I can upload a new image which represents it and update. Now, in order to save time today, I'm not going to change too many of these categories. I'm going to leave it as is so you can see how the categories work together with the navigation of the store. Tags, we also have just the one tag that we created, but it's very easy to add new ones. Just write the name. The slug is just the URL friendly version, which is all lowercase using hyphens, letters, and numbers. And you can write a description of that if you need to. Now there's one more here called attributes, and I want to draw your attention to. If you are ever going to create variable products that have different color options, size options, and so on, you would want to create global attributes. At least this is one major way to do it. We also have a plugin at Barn2 called WooCommerce Product Options, which does have a different way of creating different variations for your products. But for now, this is the default way to do it. So you can see you can edit attributes, edit existing ones. Although this doesn't actually allow you to change which attributes there are. You need to configure terms to edit them. So here we have all the different colors that were added by the starter template, which is very handy. And if you need to edit anything individually, you can do it here with a description. Now note that these are just text attributes. They don't actually hold any information about the specific color or sizes. They're simply descriptors. Now let's add a new product and let's make it a variable product using some of the colors and sizes that we saw before. So I like this Woman in Tech light t-shirt from my other store. So I'm just going to copy this information over. I'm going to categorize this as women's shirts. Set the product image. But I'm going to make one change to this and I'm going to make it a variable product. Now I can start by adding attributes here. Got it. Clicking on attributes. Can add from the existing attributes of color and size. Select which values apply. So we have, let's say, black and white. Let's keep it very simple. And we're going to add an existing one. Size, there we go. And select which values we want. So let's select L, M, and XL. Make sure everything's visible on the product page and used for variations. Save those. Now click on Variations and click on Generate Variations. This will create a bunch of new products, which you can then individually edit. If you want to quickly edit everything at once, you can use the bulk actions. For example, I can set the price for all of them, and let's say 22 $22.99. Now every single one of these variations will have a regular price of $22.99. For stock management, I'd also recommend using the SKU. This is pretty standard in retail to keep track of all of your different items. You can also individually select the stock management for a product here, or you can do it globally in the WooCommerce settings, which we'll get to later on. Finally, click Publish, and we've created a new variable product. Let's see what it looks like. So here are our different options: black and white, large, medium, and extra large. We'd probably want to change the order of these in the back end, but ultimately this is how we can add something to our cart by clicking on those options and clicking Add to Cart. Now, obviously, if it's a color and you want it to look like a color and not look like a word, then I would recommend using the WooCommerce Product Options plugin, and you can set up the colors as color swashes, and you can set up the sizes as buttons like this or in some other configuration as well. If you made it this far into the video, give yourselves a pat on the back. It's now time to begin designing and customizing the site to our liking. Over here on the left, you can see pages. These are all the different pages that make up our website. Some of them were added by default when WooCommerce was installed, and others were created by the starter template. If you click on any page, for example, the home front page, and click on Edit, it'll bring you to the block editor where you can make changes to the actual website itself, text and images, buttons, and all of that lovely stuff. But before we do that, let's first back up and make some global design changes to our entire website using our themes settings. This will include the color palette and the fonts that we use across the entire site. So to get back to your website's dashboard, click on this button up here, go to Appearance, and click on Customize. This will allow us to make global changes to the way our site looks. First, let's look at the global settings. We have typography. These are presets that we can choose from. This is probably the easiest way to get started. I like Montserrat, so I'm going to click on this preset. And this will save me time going through each one in detail. But you can spend some time modifying the H1, H2 fonts and all of the rest as well. And you can modify the margins. If you want to reset any settings, just click on this little button here. And when you click Publish, that will make all of these changes live on your site. Click on this arrow here to go back. Now the starter template came with these colors here. If you have a business with a specific color palette, I would recommend updating these colors to match the theme of your website. But for today, I think we don't need to go into detail on this. Obviously, you have slightly different variations from the existing palette. And if you just want to get started quickly today, then don't worry too much about this. And here we have options for the different buttons. I like a more rounded button rather than a square looking one. So you can see these buttons are changing as I click on the different options. I like it with the background color so it stands out more from the image behind it. You could probably spend all day just on buttons alone, as you have options for the text color, background color, and border color. But honestly, I think this is looking pretty good. You also have this little feature in the Astra theme for allowing scroll to top. You can allow it on desktop and mobile, and it just gives customers this little button here, which they can use to jump to the top of a page. And that's all the settings I want to look at in the global area. Now let's go down to the header builder. So the header is up here and it gives our customers some navigation options for getting around our website. Up here we can see the site title and logo. If I was to move that over to the right, then it would switch places with the primary menu, but that doesn't make any sense. So let's put that there. We could also put something in the center if we wanted to. For example, I could even move this cart to the center, but it does throw off the balance of the menu. So I'm going to move that back to where it was. And you can add new elements clicking on here, clicking on this button here. You could create a new link, or you could add different widgets or social icons, for example. In a minute, we'll learn how to customize the primary menu to change what is showing up here on the top. But for now, it's looking pretty good. So we can click on Publish to save those changes. Now, basically the same options apply in the footer builder, but you can see there's a little bit larger and there are more elements that you can add, including this widget for subscribing and these social icons down in the bottom here. If you've used the starter template, things will probably be looking pretty good, but if you ever need to remove something or change it, you can do so in this footer builder. For example, it's a good idea to add a link to a page like your terms and conditions or privacy policy, which we will be creating later on. I could also add a footer menu down here on the right, which will add an additional navigation option, and we could add different pages here as we need to. Now go down to WooCommerce. Now, product catalog. Enable or disable the product's title area. You can also adjust the container layout to full width or normal. I like it here because it's not too overcrowded. However, this product's title area is bothering me a little bit, so I'm going to see if I have a better option. We have layout number 2, which would include a banner. We could also include the breadcrumbs, which just shows you what page you're on, but that being up at the top doesn't look very good to me. Now the shop cart design, we have design number 2 enabled at the moment, but we also have this more compact option. We can see at the moment 3 columns are enabled, but we could make it 4. And this will allow us to display more products per line. I think we should also enable the add to cart button for each of our items. And because I don't have any ratings to display, I'm going to hide those for now. You can also hide the category if we feel like it's unnecessary. Now let's click Publish and go back to the single product page. If we click on a single product, we can see what the page will look like at the moment. And again, we have the option to enable or disable all of these different sections here. We can enable or disable the breadcrumbs, as well as the shipping option. But make sure to update this text depending on what sort of shipping options you actually have. In the cart section, it's fairly simple. You have the option to change the text of the checkout. For example, I could say buy now. And the checkout itself has some more detailed options. You also need to link to your privacy policy here to make sure that everyone is aware before placing their order. And you can also link to your terms and conditions page once you've created that later on in this tutorial. Under miscellaneous, if you enable quantity plus and minus, then you have these buttons here so people can add more than 1 or less than the number they have before adding to cart. And you can modify the main image width and the thumbnail width as well. Or you can set the cropping to custom or allow it to be uncropped so the full images will be displayed. But if your images are different sizes, then this could look quite messy. At the moment though, all my images are the same ratio. And finally, there is a store notice. You can set this up. I've created a notice so anyone who visits understands that this is not a real store. It's a demo for testing purposes, and no orders will actually be fulfilled. Now, thankfully, we don't have to start from scratch when designing our homepage. The template we used gave us a great starting point, so we can simply replace the text and images with anything we like for it to be ready to publish. So now that we've finished updating all our settings with Astra, let's close out of this option here and go back to our pages, find our home page, and click on Edit. And this will bring us to the page builder. Now I'm using the default page builder here in WordPress, and I'm using Spectra to add more blocks and options as well, just to increase the functionality of it. So what are blocks? Well, to put it simply, blocks are sections or pieces that you can add onto your pages. And we can find new blocks over here on the left. You can see all of these sections where there's text or buttons or images are also blocks. And these blocks live within containers. So you can see this is a container block. We use containers to keep things organized, and it makes it much easier to move sets of blocks around on our page. So for example, to recreate this block here, we have a container with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different rows. So if I click and drag this container block into the page here, I can choose what kind of container I want to make. So in this case, I would like to make it 4 rows across. And if I click on Style over here, the panel here over on the right, I can update all kinds of things to do with the block itself. So for example, I can change the content width here, I can reset it with this button. I can reset the minimum height, for example, and I can choose whether the container is full width, boxed, or a custom width. If I go to Style, I'm going to have even more options, probably too many to get into now. And Advanced also comes with additional options, which I will not get into in this video. But then all I have to do is add a block into each of these container sections. For example, I can add an image into this block here, go to my media library, and choose an image. And I can do the same for all of these blocks here if I want to. But that's just an example of how the blocks work. So I'm going to remove this entire container block. If you want to move a block around on the page, you can do so by clicking and dragging it into a new position. If you press Ctrl Z, it should undo your last action. And if you click here on this one item, but you want to select the whole container, you can do so by selecting this option here. And then you can also use these arrows to move items up or down the page, or you can click and drag like before. If you want to edit the text in any block, you can just highlight it and change it. And then over here on the right, you'll see it has the H1 heading tag, and this text here is also H1, and you can change the typography settings as well as the spacing and color and other options here in Style. Of course, if you want to change the alignment, you also have that option as well. Now down here we have some buttons, and these buttons can be updated. And if I want these buttons to be a little bit larger, I can do that with the padding settings. I can also update the margin settings to give them a little bit more space between themselves and everything else. If I unlink all of these, then I can just update one setting while the others stay the same. But let's reset these. And then up here on the right, you can click Update at any time to save your changes. Now, if you click on the container itself, you can see in Style, we have the image, which I've already updated. All you have to do to change that is just click on this button here, Change Image, and choose one that fits nicely. Then scroll down and you can see that each of these sections on the page does require updating. So first, for example, you can see I updated the image here, and then you will also need to update the text and make sure that the link in this button goes to the page that you want it to go to. And to do that, go to Call to Action and then enter the link for the page on your website where this button should lead them to. For example, if I want them to go to office supplies and I have a category for office supplies, then I'll make sure that this category is in the URL. Further down the page, we can see we have featured products, and this is something you can set up quite easily on your products. If you click on products on your dashboard, you can see the starred items are featured. Now, if you do not see this straight away, click on Screen Options and then click on Featured here to include that star and click Apply. Then you can star whatever items you want to, and those items will be featured. Once again, further down, you can update the image and the text here. I would recommend sticking to this template for the homepage for your first time, and later on you can get a little bit more fancy with the design. But this design is already optimized for a retail shopping experience, so I would say it's the best way to get started. Now let's go back to view all of our pages, and we have updated our homepage, but don't forget to update the About page and the Contact Us page, which came with your template. If you don't update these, then people will get very confused when they click on those pages and see all kinds of confusing information from the template. We can also make some edits to the checkout page. Now, this is using the shortcode WooCommerce checkout, but there is actually a new checkout block we can add. So let's get rid of this shortcode here, and we can add a new checkout block. And here we can drag and drop the checkout block. So you can see all of the different elements in the checkout. Plus, we can make little changes to each of these different parts of the checkout if we need to. For example, the address fields we can update to include or exclude the apartment or suite number, the phone number, company address, and so on. We can also show each of these step numbers along the way. And you can add additional images or paragraph blocks if needed. One thing we didn't edit earlier, but you can always update later on, is you go to Appearance and you can click on Menus to customize your store menus. Now over here, you can see all the different pages that you could link to in your menu. You can choose which menu you're trying to edit. For example, the main menu. And this is what appears on the top of our store here. Everything, women, men, accessories. You can see all the same options are here. But if I wanted to add new ones, for example, let's say I wanted to add the About page to this menu. I can select it and click Add to Menu, and it'll show up like this. And if I save that menu and refresh my shop page, then the About section has shown up here. Now, of course, this is unnecessary as it's already here in this secondary menu, but that was just to show you how that works. Another thing you can do is you can nest these items within the others. So for example, I could put women, men, and accessories inside of the everything section. I can also delete this and save that menu. Now let's see what happens. When I refresh the page, all of the menu items are in a drop-down beneath everything, and we have women, men, and accessories. But I liked it better how it was before, so I'm just going to revert back to that. When you installed WooCommerce, some pages were added by default. This includes the main shop page, the cart page, and the checkout pages. But in order to edit those pages, it's not quite the same process as our homepage. Instead, we need to go to our theme settings again, and we can make changes from there. Now you notice on our shop page, there is something we're missing, which I think is quite important to have, which are filters. Filters can live either on the top of your store page or over on the left in a widget or on the right-hand side as well. So let's see how we can set that up. First of all, go back to Appearance and click on Customize. Go to WooCommerce and click on your product catalog. Then you can choose to have a left sidebar or a right sidebar. I think this one's a little bit nicer in my opinion. And you can see there are some basic filters already set up by the theme. But if we want some better filters, I would recommend the WooCommerce product filters plugin from Barn 2. This one will integrate with all of your global attributes, and it will allow customers to sort your items based on things like color or category, but it doesn't just list things in text format. You can actually use images, so image buttons for the different categories, which look much nicer in my opinion. They're easy to set up and much more professional looking than the basic options provided by the Astra theme. Now, once you've set up the sidebar to be enabled, you can go back to Astra's settings and click on Widgets. Click on the WooCommerce sidebar, and here are the different blocks that are allowed by the theme. We have a search option, filter by price, categories, and a bestsellers list. You can click the plus button to add a new block, and you can search for filter to create a new filter. For example, filter by rating. And you can move that up to the top by clicking these arrows. Then click publish, and let's view that. All right, awesome. That's set up now. No website is complete without the terms and conditions and privacy policy pages. But don't fret, as this is quite simple to set up using some free websites that I'm linking below. All you need to do is customize some parameters and enter some company details for this website to generate the text for you. Once the website has generated your terms and conditions text, I recommend copying that text to your clipboard, going back to your website, clicking on Pages, and add a new page. Then you can paste the text from the website, and this is your terms and conditions page. And finally, don't forget to add this page into your site's navigation. For example, in the footer menu, go to Appearance, Customize, and click on Footer Builder. And in the Footer Builder, you can add your terms and conditions. I recommend editing the footer menu and add your terms and conditions page to the menu. Click on Publish, And now the footer has navigation, including the terms and conditions page. You can do the exact same thing for the privacy policy page as well. There are a few more detailed settings that I skimmed over at the beginning of this video, so I'd like to go back and address those now. So to find WooCommerce general settings, click on WooCommerce and settings, of course. Then you'll see all of these different tabs across the top here, which we can go through one by one. In the general settings, you can enter your address. This is useful for helping you to set up tax rates and shipping rates. You can also select where you're going to sell to. For example, you could sell to all countries in the world, but I'd say this is far less likely. You'll probably just sell to specific countries or even specific regions within those countries. Another important setting is to enable tax rates and calculations. Once you've set up your taxes, which you will have to do individually as I won't be able to help you with that, then this will enable the calculation of taxes in your store. Here's also where you can set up the different currencies and the decimal separator. Then save those changes and click on products. Now within products, you have even more options from general all the way to advanced. Here's where you can set which page is your main shop page. I'd recommend keeping it on default. You can also set your weight units, for example, kilograms instead of pounds, or centimeters instead of inches, and so on. Then under inventory, this is where you're going to be able to manage your stock. If you check this button to enable stock management, this means that you want to have control over how many of each item you have in your store at any time. And this will allow WooCommerce to show customers when you are out of stock of a certain item. Now you can set your low stock threshold to something like 5 or 10, depending on how quickly you sell those items. And your out of stock threshold, I wouldn't set it to 0. If anything, I would set it to something like 1 or 2, just in case you start to get really low. You don't want to show that you still have something to sell when in fact you've already sold your last item, or it's a display item or something else. You can choose to hide out of stock items, but this is entirely optional. And you can choose how WooCommerce will display what stock is remaining. All right, and those are all the main settings we need under products, unless you're going to be selling digital products, which is a separate topic yet again. In terms of tax, unfortunately, I can't help you with that today in this video, as it is beyond the scope of this video to cover all of the different tax setup options. It will depend if you're in the US, Canada, UK, or another country, and I'd recommend looking up specific videos or resources elsewhere online in order to get this correct. Now, in terms of shipping, I do have a video about how to set up shipping for your store, which you can check out on our channel. But again, it's beyond the scope of this video. But in general, just make sure that you don't set up free shipping without at least making sure you've got some control over how those items are going to be shipped and how much that's going to cost you. The best way is to usually integrate with a shipping provider, and those can be done with plugins separate to what is available here. Check out the playlist I made linked below, where you could find out more details about these specific topics like shipping, notifications, emails, and so on. We're finally ready to set up a new payment method to allow our customers to check out from our store. But don't forget to test this payment method yourself before making it live. So to start off, I always recommend Stripe to e-commerce store owners to use as their credit card payment provider. Stripe is available worldwide and is widely regarded as one of the best in the business. So before we install any plugins on our WooCommerce store, we first need to go to stripe.com and create our account. You'll then need to verify your account and add details such as your tax information and your bank account details in order to receive payments. I've created an account in test mode only, so we can still connect our checkout for testing purposes. Now go back to WordPress and click on Plugins and add new plugin. Then search for Stripe. Now you could install the official WooCommerce Stripe payment gateway, but as you can see, it doesn't have the best reviews. So I would instead suggest that you install payment plugins for Stripe WooCommerce. And once that's installed and activated, you can refresh the page and then go to WooCommerce and click on Stripe by Payment Plugins. You can now click on Settings, and we can begin setting up Stripe with our WooCommerce store. So right now we are in test mode. If we switch to live mode, that means we need to have everything set up correctly. So we're going to leave it in test mode for now, and we'll click to connect it with our Stripe account. So this is the account I want to connect it with. We can use our saved information, or we can create something new from scratch. Fill in the details as necessary. And you can also opt into their tax service, but I'm not going to do that right now. Just going to update this. This is what will show on the bank account of your customers. And now that's all set up. So we can go back to our WordPress site. And this has automatically updated our publishable and secret keys, as well as our webhooks. Now, if this did not work for you, or if it didn't set up the webhook right away, you can copy this URL and follow the directions from where it takes you, enter the key into this box here, and click on Save Changes. Then you can run through a test order, inputting all this information. Now you'll see what it looks like for your customers when they've gone through the checkout. And you can see what it looks like on your own website by clicking on WooCommerce Orders. And here we have a processing order, which was created in test mode. Another option you have is to use the PayPal plugin. This allows customers to use their existing PayPal accounts to pay for your goods. You'll also need to have an active PayPal account, and again, you'll need to connect it to your store in order to make it work. Now, if you go back to WooCommerce homepage here, then you can see we still have a few steps to go, and one is a technical one, that is to collect sales tax. Now, WooCommerce recommends using their WooCommerce tax partner, and you can feel free to continue this setup without me. I won't be able to inform you on all the ins and outs of your tax situation, as I don't know where you live or what the tax obligations are for you. So I will be including a link in the description below for more information about setting up taxes on your store, and I will leave it at that for today. One final recommendation I have for you is to go to the WordPress settings and click on Reading, then uncheck this box here to allow search engines to index your site. This will mean that visitors can find your site through Google and other search engines. But they're not going to find it unless you put in the work to optimize your site for SEO. This is an entirely different topic, and I'm not going to get into it now as we're just wrapping up this big video. I just didn't want to give you the impression that you could click this button and suddenly your site will rank in the first place on Google search. Well done to those of you who stayed with me to the end of the video. Now we'll take a broad look at our website and see what we've created. So you can see on our homepage here, we still have a few sections that need updating, like these logos here. And I've gone ahead and updated a lot of the images and text, but you can see there's still some text that needs updating later on. but we obviously know how to do that now, so it's very easy. Then from the navigation menu up the top here, we can go to our product pages. We can click on individual products, for example, choose a style and size, add a quantity, and add it to our basket. We can go to the cart page and the checkout page. And as you saw earlier, I can check out as a customer. And assuming we've set up our Stripe account correctly, we can begin receiving payments straight away. In any case, that's all I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this entire tutorial walkthrough. Leave a like on the video if you found it helpful. Check out this playlist here to see what else you can do to optimize your WooCommerce site, or check out barn2.com to learn more about all of our different plugins. And of course, thanks for watching.